Hi, and welcome to Real Estate from the Trenches. I'm your host, Dennis Norman. Today I'm going to be talking about the realtor commission settlement and what homeowners, buyers, and investors should know about it. Before I dig into that, though, quick disclaimer, you can read the whole thing, but basically, I'm not an attorney and this is not legal advice. And while I am a real estate broker, I'm not acting as your personal broker or representing you, so this information is given for informational and educational purposes only. So first off, I'm going to give just a little bit of background on the litigation that's out there in case you're not familiar with it, because you may not know what the NAR, the National Association of REALTORS, what they had to settle. Basically, the main focus here, while it's a little broader than this, are two primary lawsuits. The Sitzer lawsuit, which was filed against the National Association of REALTORS, as well as major brokerages back in 2019 in Missouri, and then the Morrell lawsuit, which was filed against similar defendants, National Association of Realtors, and most of the list was the same. It was filed also in 2019 in Illinois. At the heart of these lawsuits was something labeled the adversary commission rule, which referred to a policy that's been mandated by NAR that requires listing brokers to cooperate with buyers brokers when they put listings in the MLS, and also to offer compensation to those buyers agents. Now, since then, these were filed. There's been many other suits. There's probably a dozen and a half suits of this kind of nature and flavor pending, but these are the primary ones. So the claims or allegations, some of them, the big ones that were in these suits, were that included that NAR's rule that required all sellers to make this blanket, unilateral, and effectively non-negotiable offer buyer-broker compensation when listing a property in the MLS resulted in the sellers paying a cost that they felt, if it was a competitive market and if it weren't for the defendant's anti-competitive restraint, as they called it, meaning you have to do it, would have been paid by the buyer. So basically, again, if sellers, since they were given no choice, it's like, well, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, if you want your house in the MLS, we have to offer buyer's agent commission or a buyer's agency commission. You had no choice. And their argument is, if that wasn't a requirement, that sellers may not have agreed to pay the buyer's commission, and it could have been paid by the buyer. They also allege that most buyer brokers, so those brokers or agents representing buyers, will not show homes to clients where the seller is offering a lower buyer agent commission than normal, or they give priority. The agents will give priority to listings with higher buyer agent commissions. And the claim that resulted in this theory that that's how agents acted was called steering. You might have heard steering thrown around a lot, or the term steering, in a lot of articles and news reports on it. And they were talking about buyers agents steering their clients toward listings that had higher compensation offered for them. Okay, now I'll give you a quick overview of the NAR settlement, and I should preface this with mentioning this was just released a couple of days ago. In fact, the document that I'm going to show you, the release document, as of the time that I'm doing this recording, this has not even been filed with the court yet. So this is very early in the process. Now, it has been agreed to by the parties, but it has to make it through the court, be approved by the judge. The Department of Justice or others could kind of intervene and give their opinion and thoughts. So things could change. But I'm doing this video based upon where it stands right now, and with the expectation that it gets approved, in more or less its current form. So basically, the National Association of Realtors, NAR, they reached a settlement that, with the aim to resolve all the ongoing litigation surrounding broker commissions. It covers a wide range of parties, including home sellers that who listed properties all across the U.S. that were listed in the MLS, and that they paid a commission to any brokerages within specified date ranges. And as far as the date ranges go, they vary from when you sold a house from 2014 to maybe 16 to present, depending on what area you're in. The settlement also releases various parties from future claims related to broker commissions, such as NAR Realtor Associations, NAR itself, local and state Realtor Association, MLSs, brokerages, agents. It doesn't include everybody in all those categories. We'd be here for 2 hours or more if I really drilled this down to all the minutia. But by and large, it includes the bulk of the Realtor Associations, MLSs, and the brokers and agents that are members of the Realtors, as well as it includes a lot of, or can include agents that are not Realtors too. It's, again, a rather comprehensive list. Now, all this was done, or the settlement amount was, that was arrived at was, as you see on here, $418 million. So NAR is paying $418 million to settle this. I might add that Keller Williams and RE/MAX and Anywhere, 3 other large brokerages, have already reached their own settlements. So those are additional amounts are being paid. Now, before you get too excited for this, about this, because if you sold your house, depending on where you are, after 14, 15, 16, and you listed it and paid a buyer's agent commission and it was in MLS, you may get a little postcard in the mail and you may have some money coming. But before you get too excited, as you can see there on the screen, this is just my rough calculations, but you might get $14 back, because if it's $418 million and there were roughly 40 million homes sold during this extended period, even if we say the settlement only applies to half of them, because as I said, 3 large companies settled on their own, and so those aren't going to apply, and it won't apply to everything, but let's just say it applies to roughly 20 million of them. Then out of that 418 million, that's not all going to go to those 20 million homeowners, because the law firm's going to take a big chunk of it, and they've had a boatload of expenses, and the lead plaintiffs get a little bigger piece, and then it goes down to everybody else. So if only 30% is eaten up for all that stuff I just rattled off, that leaves about 292 million. For 20 million people, about $14 a piece. Whatever it is, it probably won't change your life. So NAR, as part of this settlement, has agreed to change some practices that the plaintiffs and the plaintiffs' attorneys found objectionable. And so some of those things are the elimination of the buyer broker compensation offers through the multiple listing services. So currently, when your listing agent lists a property for sale in the MLS, they put in the MLS, a percentage or what they're offering to the buyer's agent. And so that's going to be prohibited. MLSs will no longer be able to, they'll remove that field. So nothing about buyer's agent commission will be in the MLS at all. And so it just can't be offered through the MLS. Another requirement that is coming along here, and this one's kind of comical, or one of these conditions, is a requirement for written agreements between buyers and their brokers. And these agreements must specify the buyer's broker compensation and how it will be paid. Well, these are called buyer's agency agreements. And the reason I say it's comical is because they've been out forever, and every agent that is the least bit professional uses them. I mean, our agents use them exclusively. You can't represent a buyer with it. Well, in some states, there is a default. You're considered a buyer's agent even without an agreement. In Missouri, where we're at, you can't even be a buyer's agent without an agreement. But it's just silly not to have it. So I just find it interesting that they're going to require this agreement now, which has been used by most good agents for a long time now. This one I find comical too. Buyer's agents cannot represent their services are free. Now, up until about 3 years ago, the National Association of REALTORS rules actually permitted agents, an agent was not in violation of the Code of Ethics if they indicated that their services were free. Now, I always took objection to this, and the agents in our firm never did it. And my coaching to agents, I suggested they not do it because the buyer's agent representation wasn't free. They were being paid. They were being paid by the seller maybe, but it still wasn't free. Plus, my thought was, if you're a professional and you're an agent, and the best way you can convince your buyer client that you're bringing value to the table and that you're bringing services that they need is to tell them, I'm free, I don't cost you anything. That's pretty pathetic. Maybe you shouldn't be an agent. You should have more to tell them about that. You should be able to justify why there is an expense in using you, just like there's an expense in using an attorney or a CPA or the person that mows your lawn. So anyway, here's an interesting thing too, which I'll just throw out, not in the commentary. The interesting thing is all these things that are agreed to in this settlement, if it goes down like it is, only applies for 7 years. Okay, so what will the impact to homeowners and sellers be? So what does this mean for homeowners that sold their homes during the covered period? And then for the sellers going forward. Now, for the homeowners that sold their homes during that covered period, as I mentioned before, get ready for your windfall to arrive. You may get a check in the mail for $14 or $16. Seriously, you'll get something. Now, for homeowners that are selling their home after these new rules go into effect, again, assuming they go into effect the way they have been agreed to so far, I mean, basically on the seller side, almost nothing's going to change. I mean, the primary change is going to be that your agent will not tell you that in order to get in the MLS, you have to make an offer of compensation to a buyer's agent. Now, quite frankly, for well over a decade, all you had to offer was a penny. I mean, it had to be something. So you could have offered 1 cent. Then after these lawsuits started, NAR got smart and decided to change 1 cent to 0. So even before the settlement, sellers didn't have to offer anything at all to a buyer's agent. And they could have offered as little as a penny. But so, there's not much change there. Let's see, you don't have to offer anything now. That's the same thing I would have told you, a year ago. You can still make an offer of compensation. And so likely what's going to happen is your agent's still going to tell you it's a good idea to offer a buyer's agent commission. You're just not going to be able to put in the MLS. And again, I don't want to get into all the minutia. If there's interest, we can drill down and have some conversations on some of these specifics. But that's really the only change from the seller side is you're not going to have to make an offer of compensation to a buyer's agent to get in the MLS if you want to. And if you make one, it just won't be put in the MLS. Now, what's the impact to home buyers and investors that are, buying out there? So basically, your buyer's agent's no longer going to be guaranteed that they're going to be getting paid by the listing broker some amount of commission simply by virtue of the fact that the listing's in the MLS. So buyer's agent knows automatically they're getting paid, period. Even if they don't have a buyer's agency agreement with you, they know there's a commission hanging out there for them. They just don't know how much, but as soon as they look in the MLS, they see how much. And since it's so consistent with what's offered today, it's they can make that assumption. Well, that's going to go away because a buyer's agent won't be able to just assume that because it's in the MLS, they'll get commission. In fact, they have to assume the opposite. There's no commission stated in there. Now, again, they can contact the listing agent and they may get compensated, but that changes. Then this written agreement between buyers and their brokers, buyer's agency agreements, they're going to have to use them. So for our agents and our firm, this is no change. They already use them. The buyer's agency agreements already stipulate what compensation there's going to be because we have minimums in there, and our agents have for years let their buyer clients know that, hey, if I show you a house that that's not listed, maybe it's for sale by owner or it's not on the market, you may have to pay me the commission if I'm not getting it from the seller. And they let them know that even if it's in the MLS and it's listed, if there's some amount of commission that's lower than their normal charge, they may have to get the buyer may have to pay some. I mean, we've done that for years, but that's going to be a requirement that agreement be in place and that the buyer knows what their agent's going to cost them. I think that's a beautiful thing, because what's scary to me is, or not scary, but concerning, are these surveys and this data that came out over the last several years that showed that, I mean, the overwhelming share of buyers either felt their buyer's agent was working for free or didn't cost them something or didn't have any clue how they were getting paid and didn't know what they were getting paid. And I love transparency. I think people, we should understand what things are costing us. Not to mention, good agents like the agents in our firm, more realtors, they're not afraid. You ask them, what are you doing for me? Why am I paying you this money? They'll be able to explain to you all the services they bring to you and why you're going to want them to represent you and why you want them on your side. And yes, even whatever the cost is, or what the cost is fair in value, whether it's a direct cost that you have to pay directly or an indirect cost. So, that's not a big deal. I think the agents that are going to get hurt by this are those that are weak and that don't bring knowledge and professionalism to the table, and they can't explain to you why they should get paid. So, all right. And then, of course, again, a change for the buyers. Buyers agents can't tell the buyers that, their services are free. Okay, so how do you find a professional that can really serve you now? And today, I think, more than ever, it's crucial that you choose a real estate professional based upon their depth of knowledge and mastery of the skills that are going to be necessary to guide you through this process successfully. And this is whether you're a homeowner looking to sell. Now, sellers have done a good job at this for quite a while. Sellers tend to interview agents pretty thoroughly. They ask important questions like what they're going to do for them. Buyers have not done a good job on this because, like I said a few minutes ago, buyers, by and large, didn't feel like they were paying the agent. So they just, if you think somebody's free, I mean, you might not spend as much time, seeing what their skills are. But now buyers are going to need to act like sellers too. So you're going to want to find an agent that's within a brokerage like ours, like More Realtors. Now, it's a shameless plug, but we're not the only firm out there like this. And we serve the St. Louis metro area, but there are a lot of firms like ours serving, areas all over the country. But you're going to want to find a firm that has been proactive in preparing, on a regular basis. They're proactive in preparing their agents for shifts in the industry, which are always coming, and changes, whether it be based upon pending litigation or regulatory changes or just market shifts. You're going to want to find one that, where they end up with these agents that are prepared and agents that want that and seek that out. And they have worked to educate themselves on the little intricacies of the market and the implications of all this on their clients. And I got to tell you, I'm proud of the people we're surrounded with. We have a whole bunch of agents like this. And again, we're not we don't hold the exclusive patent on that. I'm a little partial to ours, but there are a lot of firms like that. I'd be happy to help you find somebody or make recommendations to you as well, regardless of what market you're looking at. And finally, appreciate you being here. And if you found this informative and helpful, I'd love for you to please share it, give it a like, and subscribe so that you can see more content like this. Also, feel free to leave a comment below if you have any questions, suggestions on other topics to be covered, or you'd like my help in any way connecting with a professional. Thank you, and God bless you.